At 10:47 on a Thursday night, Nora Bennett knocked on my door wearing flannel pajama pants, an old college sweatshirt, and the expression she usually reserved for injured animals and broken coffee makers. "My front door won't lock," she said. Rain ticked against the hallway windows of our old Pittsburgh duplex. I grabbed my tool bag, followed her across the landing, and found the deadbolt refusing to catch because the frame had swollen in the wet weather. Took me 7 minutes to fix. I tested the lock twice, packed up my drill, and told her she was good for the night. Nora didn't move away from the door. "I'm not scared," she said quietly. "That's not why I called you." On the dining table behind her sat 3 moving boxes, a folder marked Seattle, and a one-way airline itinerary. She looked me straight in the eye. "I have to give them an answer by 9 tomorrow morning. And before I do, I need to know whether I've been imagining us for the last 3 years. Before I tell you what I said and how badly I got it wrong, take a second to like the story, subscribe, and tell me in the comments. Would you risk a good friendship to ask for something more? I had spent most of my adult life fixing things people could point to. A sagging porch, a cracked stair tread, a kitchen cabinet that refused to close. I owned a small restoration company called Hale and Timber, and my days made sense because wood, brick, and metal followed rules. Find the damage. Understand the pressure. Make the repair strong enough to hold. People were harder. Nora had lived across the landing from me for 3 years, for months, and though I would never have admitted I knew it, 11 days. She was 34, worked as a counselor at a public middle school, and had a habit of leaving handwritten notes on my door when she borrowed something. Took the latter. Will return it before you need to rescue a cat. Borrowed your socket wrench. I am now 90% more powerful. I made too much chili. This is not charity. I need the container back. First, we were simply neighbors. Then her kitchen pipe burst while she was visiting her father in Ohio, and I shut off the water before the whole first floor flooded. A month later, I came down with the flu, and she left soup, medicine, and a note that said, "You look terrible. Congratulations on surviving another day." Somewhere between shared grocery runs, Sunday coffee on the front steps, and late-night conversations through our open windows, being around her became the easiest part of my life. That should have made it very simple. Didn't. I looked at the Seattle folder, then at the boxes, then back at her face. "What exactly are you asking me?" I said. Her mouth tightened, not with anger but with the effort of staying honest. "I'm asking whether this is only convenient for you. This, us, dinner on Tuesdays, your spare key in my junk drawer, the way you call me when you finish a job late so I know you got home, the way I'm the first person you tell when something goes right and the last person you talk to when something goes wrong." I felt the room narrow around me. "Nora, please don't say my name like that." "Like what?" "Like you're about to be careful." I set my tool bag on the floor because my hand had started gripping the handle too hard. The honest answer was that I had thought about kissing her more times than I could count. I had imagined her asleep beside me, laughing in my truck, standing in the half-finished kitchen of some house we had chosen together. I had also spent 7 years building a life that could not be taken apart by another person's decision. My ex-wife, Claire, had left on a Wednesday morning while I was at a job site. She did not run away with anyone. She did not empty our account. She simply decided she had spent too much of her life trying to want the life we had built. The absence of betrayal did not make the ending hurt less. By the time I came home, half the closet was empty and there was a note on the counter that began, "You deserve someone who is certain." After that, certainty became the one thing I did not trust. Nora was still waiting. "You should take the job," I said. Her eyes changed. It was subtle, but I saw it. "That isn't what I asked. It's Seattle. It's the kind of position you've been working toward." "That still isn't what I asked." I moved toward the dining table and rested my fingertips on the back of a chair. "I'm not going to be the reason you turn down something important." She looked down for a moment, then nodded as if confirming a private calculation. "Okay, Nora." "No, it's okay. You answered. I said you should take the job." "Exactly." She walked to the door I had just repaired and opened it for me. I wanted to say something that would erase the disappointment in her face without requiring me to step into the future she had placed between us. There was no such sentence, so I picked up my bag. As I crossed the landing, she said, "For what it's worth, I didn't want you to ask me to stay." I turned. She held the door with one hand. "I wanted to know whether you'd ask me not to disappear from your life." Then she closed the door, and the new deadbolt slid into place with a clean, solid click. At 8 the next morning, I stood in the workshop staring at a walnut cabinet door while my business partner, Marcus Reed, waited for me to answer a question about hinges. "Ethan." "What?" "I asked whether you want soft close or standard." "Soft close." "You always choose standard for this style." "Then standard." Marcus folded his arms. He was 42, broad-shouldered, patient, and annoyingly observant. We had built hail and timber together after meeting on a hotel renovation crew. He handled schedules, contracts, and clients. I handled design, field work, and the stubborn belief that every piece of old wood deserved a second chance. "You look like you slept in a supply closet," he said. "Nora got a job offer in Seattle." His eyebrows rose. "And?" She asked whether I thought there was something between us. "And?" I told her to take the job. Marcus stared at me for 3 full seconds. Then he placed both palms on the workbench. "I need you to understand that I am asking this as your friend, not your business partner." "Are you an idiot?" "I didn't say there was nothing between us." "What did you say?" "That she shouldn't give up an opportunity because of me." "Did she ask you to make that decision for her?"
No.
"Did she ask you to solve her career?"
No.
"Did she ask whether you cared about her?" I picked up the cabinet door and carried it to the sanding table. Marcus followed me. "That is a yes or no question, Ethan. Nothing about this is yes or no. Most things are not. The words still exist." I turned on the sander. He reached past me and switched it off. "She is leaving," he said. "You can either tell her the truth before she goes or spend the next 5 years pretending you are relieved." I looked toward the workshop windows. Our building sat near the river in Lawrenceville, surrounded by old warehouses turned into studios, breweries, and expensive apartments. Rainwater streaked the glass. On the other side of town, Nora was probably calling Seattle. "I don't know what truth she wanted," I said. Marcus gave me a tired look. "You do. You just don't know what it would cost." At 9:16, Nora texted me. "I accepted the position. Start date is in 4 weeks." I typed 3 different replies. "Congratulations. They're lucky to have you. I'm proud of you. Can we talk?" I deleted all 3 and sent. "That's great news." She responded with a thumbs up. All day, every tool sounded too loud. That evening, Nora knocked on my door again. This time she was dressed for work, her dark hair pulled into a loose knot, a canvas tote over one shoulder. "I need to ask you a favor," she said. I stepped aside. "Come in." She stayed in the hallway. "My landlord says I can sublet, but the front room needs the plaster repaired, and the back steps won't pass an inspection. I'll take care of it. I'm paying you. You fed me approximately 200 dinners. Ethan. Fine. Materials at cost. And labor. We'll discuss it. No, we'll write it down." That was Nora. Even hurt, she would not accept a favor that might be used later as emotional currency. I respected her for it, though at that moment her boundaries felt like a wall I had helped build. "When do you want to start?" I asked. "Saturday. I'll be there at 8. She nodded. As she turned away, I said, "Congratulations." She looked back. "About Seattle," I added. "I should have said it this morning." "Thank you. You'll be good at it." "I know." There was no arrogance in the answer, only the steady confidence she had earned after 12 years of working with children most adults had already labeled difficult. Then she went inside, and I heard the deadbolt engage. Saturday morning, I knocked at 8 sharp. Nora opened the door wearing jeans, a gray t-shirt, and paint on her left cheek. "You started without me. I removed the loose plaster. You watched one renovation video, didn't you? 4. That makes you dangerous." For the first time since Thursday night, she smiled. The front room was mostly empty except for a drop cloth, 2 lamps, and a stack of boxes near the window. I inspected the wall, then the back steps. The plaster was straightforward. The stairs were not. Water had rotted 2 stringers, and the bottom landing had begun pulling away from the house. This is more than an inspection fix, I told her. The lower section needs to be rebuilt. How long? 2 weekends if the weather holds. I leave in 26 days. I know. She glanced at me. Of course you do. We worked side by side through the morning. I mixed plaster while she cleared shelves and wrapped dishes in newspaper. The rhythm felt familiar enough to hurt. At noon, she ordered sandwiches from the deli down the street. We sat on the floor because the table was covered with boxes. What will you do in Seattle? I asked. The district is opening a program for students moving between foster placements. I'll train counselors, coordinate with social workers, and build a crisis response team. That sounds like 3 jobs. It probably is. You'll tell them that? I already did. I smiled. How did they take it? They added $8,000 to the offer. That's my neighbor. Her expression softened, and for a second the distance between us vanished. Then she looked at the box beside her. Former neighbor, she said. The word landed harder than it should have. I unwrapped my sandwich. You haven't left yet. No. But I am leaving. I know. Do you? I met her eyes. She shook her head. Never mind. No. Say it. You keep acting like this is a kitchen renovation. Like if we stay busy and polite, nothing important has to happen. What do you want to happen? That is the problem. I already told you what I wanted. You asked me whether you imagined us. I didn't know how to answer that with your whole career sitting on the table. You could have answered the question I asked instead of the one that scared you less. I set the sandwich down. You want honesty? Fine. No, you didn't imagine it. I think about you all the time. I notice when your car isn't outside. I know which nights you work late. I know you pretend not to like old movies and then quote them for a week. I know the sound of your footsteps in the hall. Her face went still. I kept going because stopping would have been worse. But wanting something doesn't make it a good idea. You are moving across the country. My business is here. My father is here. My whole life is here. And because the timing is hard, you decided the feeling wasn't worth naming. I'm naming it now. Because I pushed you. Yes. At least that part is honest. She stood and carried her half-eaten sandwich to the kitchen. I followed her. What did you expect me to say Thursday? She leaned against the counter. I expected you to tell me whether I mattered to you in a way that might survive a zip code. That's not a plan. No. It's a beginning. I don't start things unless I know I can finish them. She studied me with an expression that was more sad than angry. That sounds responsible, she said. But sometimes it's just fear wearing a tool belt. I almost laughed because it was exactly the kind of line she would use on a student who had gotten too good at defending himself. Instead, I said, and sometimes leaving is easier than finding out whether something can work. The moment the words were out, I regretted them. Nora's shoulders stiffened. I earned this job, she said. I applied because I wanted it, not because I was running away from you. I didn't mean. You did. I meant you made the decision fast. I had a deadline. You had 1 night. I had 3 years. The kitchen went quiet. She pressed her lips together, then looked toward the front room. We should finish the wall. We did, but the ease was gone. On Wednesday, I found a chipped blue mug wrapped in newspaper on the counter. It was mine. I had left it at her place 2 years earlier and forgotten about it. You packed my mug, I said. She looked up from a stack of books. You use it here. I thought you would leave it. With the subtenant? I guess. She took the mug from me and turned it in her hands. I was going to bring it, she said. To Seattle? It's a mug, Ethan. It's my mug. I'm aware. Why bring it? Her eyes lifted to mine. Because I thought maybe you would visit. That simple answer moved through me more powerfully than any dramatic confession could have. I pictured her in a Seattle apartment, rain against different windows, my blue mug in a cabinet I had never opened. I pictured flying out on a Friday night, waking beside her on Saturday, learning a new grocery store and a new route from the airport. The image did not feel impossible. It felt dangerous because it felt good. I could visit, I said. Nora wrapped the mug again. You don't have to say things because you think they'll make this easier. I'm not. Then tell me when. What? When would you visit? I don't know your schedule. You know my start date. I have projects booked. You always have projects booked. That's how a business works. She put the mug into the box and folded the cardboard flaps over it. I'm not asking for a plane ticket tonight, she said. I'm asking whether you can imagine making room. I wanted to say yes. Instead, I looked at the unfinished stairs. I need to check the measurements. Nora let out a breath through her nose, not quite a laugh. Of course you do. The next morning, my father called while I was unloading lumber. Nora's moving to Seattle, I told him. And what are you doing about it? I told her to take the job. He sighed. That was not the question she asked. I sat on the truck bed. My father lived in the house where I grew up. I had been using his health, the house, and my business as proof that my life could not change. I can't promise her this will work, I said. No one can. His voice softened. I spent years telling myself your mother left because there was nothing I could have done. Maybe she still would have gone. But I could have listened when she said she was lonely. I could have stopped treating every hard conversation like a problem to solve. Would that have changed anything? Maybe not. But I would know I showed up honestly. I looked down. Do not confuse control with commitment, Ethan, he said. You don't need a guarantee to tell a woman she matters. And you do not need to build your life around my gutters. Despite myself, I laughed. Ask what can change, he said. Then decide what you are willing to change. When we hung up, I knew I had been calling fear responsibility. On the drive home, she looked out the passenger window at the city lights. Your dad offered to mail me cuttings from the immortal rosebush, she said. He gives those to everyone he likes. So he likes the mailman? The mailman has been through a lot. She smiled. I tightened my hands on the steering wheel. I meant what I said about visiting. She turned toward me. I could come out in October, I continued, after the Waverly project wraps. That's 6 weeks after I move. I know. Would you stay with me? The question was calm, direct, and impossible to mistake. Yes, I said. Something warm entered her expression. Then I ruined it. If that's not too complicated. The warmth disappeared. What would make it complicated? I don't know. Expectations. Whose? Both of ours. She faced the windshield again. You don't have to come. I said I want to. No. You said you could, then immediately explained why wanting it might be a problem. That isn't fair. It's exactly fair. We stopped at a red light. I turned toward her. What do you want from me, Nora? She looked at me for a long moment. I want you to stop offering pieces of yourself and calling it the whole truth. The light changed. A horn sounded behind us. I drove the rest of the way in silence. When we reached the duplex, she opened the passenger door but did not get out right away. I'm not asking for a promise that nothing will go wrong, she said. I'm asking whether you are willing to be in this with me while we find out. I swallowed. And if I am? Then say it before I stop believing you. She got out and went inside. The following week, the back steps collapsed. Not completely. One of the temporary supports shifted after a night of heavy rain, and the lower landing dropped 3 inches. No one was hurt, but the inspection had to be postponed. I arrived at 6 in the morning to find Nora standing in the yard in rubber boots, staring at the damage. I checked those supports, I said. I know. I should have replaced the lower brace. You told me the ground was soft. I should have accounted for it. Ethan, this is on me. She walked over and put a hand on my arm. It's a staircase, not a moral failure. I looked at her fingers against my sleeve. Even after every difficult conversation, she still reached for me when she saw me blaming myself. That was the moment I knew my feelings were not built from habit. Habit does not make another person's hand feel like mercy. I covered her hand with mine. "I don't want you to go," I said. Her eyes lifted. "But I also don't want you to stay because I'm finally scared enough to speak." She slowly withdrew her hand. "Then what are you saying?" "I'm saying I need to figure out what choosing you looks like without asking you to choose less." For the first time, she did not push for a quicker answer. "Okay," she said. "Figure it out." I rebuilt the steps in 4 days. At the same time, I began doing something I should have done from the beginning. I examined my life as if it were a real structure instead of an excuse. Marcus and I met before work on Tuesday. "What would happen if I spent 1 week a month in Seattle?" I asked. He did not look surprised. "We'd need another site supervisor." "Could we afford one?" "If you stopped insisting on doing finish carpentry yourself, yes." "What about estimates?" "Video calls exist." "What about design approvals?" "Email exists." "What about emergency repairs?" "Employees exist." I frowned. "You've thought about this." "I have thought about pushing you into the river." He opened a spreadsheet and turned the laptop toward me. For 2 years, Marcus had been asking to buy a larger share of the company. I had refused because hail and timber felt like the first thing I had built after my divorce that belonged entirely to me. The spreadsheet showed a transition plan. Marcus would take majority control of daily operations. I would retain ownership, lead design, handle specialty restoration, and reduce field hours. "This would give you room," he said. "It would change everything." "Yes. I don't know if I'm ready." "You are not deciding whether to sell your kidney. You are deciding whether the company can grow beyond your need to personally hold every nail." I stared at the numbers. "What if it fails?" "Then we adjust." The answer annoyed me because it was so reasonable. That afternoon, I drove to my father's house. He was in the garage cleaning garden tools. "If I spent more time away," I said, "would you be okay?" He looked up slowly. "Do you think I am the reason you can't leave Pittsburgh? You had that blood pressure scare in March. I changed my medication. You still need help with the house. I need help with gutters twice a year. I do not need my 37-year-old son to build his life around my downspouts. I'm not building my life around downspouts." "Good. Then stop using them as an argument." He set the rake aside. "Are you moving?" "No." "Maybe. I don't know. I'm trying to see whether part of my work can happen somewhere else." "For Nora." "For me too." He nodded. "That is a better answer." 2 days later, I told Nora about the business plan. She was packing books in the front room. I stood near the wall we had repaired, suddenly more nervous than I had been in any client meeting. "I talked to Marcus," I said. "He can take over more operations. I could spend 1 week a month in Seattle at first, maybe more after the Waverly project. I can do design remotely and fly back for site work." She placed a book in the box. "You made a plan. A draft. Because of me?" "Because I realized I've been using my responsibilities to avoid asking whether any of them could change." She sat back on her heels. "What are you asking me?" "I want to come visit in October." Her expression remained guarded. "And before that, I want us to talk every day. Not neighbor talk. Not updates about weather and broken appliances. Real conversations. I want to know what you need. I want you to know what I'm afraid of. I want to try." The last sentence felt both too small and enormous. Nora stood. "Try what?" "Us." She searched my face. "You waited until I had 1 foot out the door." "I know. You hurt me." "I know. And you still sound like you're presenting a project timeline." I let out a breath. "I don't know how to do this without making a plan." "Then don't hide behind the plan." I stepped closer. "I love you." The words came out quiet. Not polished. Not dramatic. True. Nora closed her eyes for 1 second. When she opened them, there were tears in them, but she did not move toward me. I have wanted to hear that for a long time, she said. I should have said it sooner. Yes. I'm saying it now. Yes. The repetition did not feel like acceptance. It felt like she was holding each fact separately, deciding what it meant. I reached for her hand, then stopped before touching her. Can I? She looked at my open hand. After a moment, she placed hers in it. I love you too, she said. That isn't the problem. The relief that hit me was so strong it nearly disguised the rest of her sentence. What is? I don't know whether I can trust you not to retreat every time the future becomes uncertain. I tightened my fingers around hers, then forced myself to relax. You shouldn't trust a promise I haven't earned. Her eyebrows lifted slightly. I want to earn it, I said. Not by asking you to wait for me, by showing up. She nodded, tears slipping free now. Then show up. I leaned forward, giving her time to pull away. She did not. Our first kiss was not perfect. My shoulder bumped a stack of books, and one of them fell against my shoe. Nora laughed against my mouth, which made me laugh too. Then her hand came to the back of my neck, and the room went still around us. For 3 years, I had imagined that kissing her would feel like crossing a line. Instead, it felt like finally admitting the line had never been where I thought it was. We did not become instantly easy after that. Love did not erase logistics. It made them more important. We spent the next week talking through time zones, travel costs, work schedules, and boundaries. Nora did not want nightly calls to become an obligation we resented. I did not want to promise weekly flights I could not sustain. We agreed on honesty over performance. If one of us was exhausted, we would say so. If distance started changing what we wanted, we would not wait until resentment did the talking. On her last Tuesday in Pittsburgh, we ate takeout on the front steps. The porch box sat beside her suitcase. What's in that one? I asked. Evidence. Of what? That you've been taking up space in my life for years. She opened it. Inside were the blue mug, 2 mismatched coffee spoons, a photograph of us at my father's birthday, a paperback I had loaned her, and the small brass key tag I had made when she first gave me a spare key. Nora, front door, I had stamped into the metal. She held it up. I'm giving the landlord the spare back tomorrow. I took the tag from her. I could keep it. To a door I won't live behind? For history. She leaned her shoulder against mine. What do you think happens to us? She asked. The old version of me would have searched for the safest answer. This time I told the truth. I think the first month is going to be harder than we expect. I think one of us will miss a call and the other will pretend not to care. I think flights will get delayed and we'll argue about whose turn it is to travel. That sounds romantic. I'm not done. Go on. I think I'll learn your new grocery store. I think you'll complain about my Seattle rain jacket. I think we'll figure out whether this is a season or a permanent change. And I think, whatever happens, I'm not going to disappear inside silence again. She looked at me. That is the most romantic thing you've ever said. Low bar. Extremely. She kissed my cheek. The next morning, I drove her to the airport. I carried her suitcase to the curb, though she told me twice she could manage it. Around us, people hurried beneath signs, hugged quickly, checked phones, and dragged bags toward automatic doors. Nora turned to me. This is the part where people make big promises, she said. I brought a calendar instead. She laughed, then covered her face with one hand. I pulled a folded page from my jacket. It showed dates, flights, and a week in October I had blocked off. At the bottom, I had written, "This is not a guarantee. It is evidence of intention." She read the line twice. "You really are a contractor," she said. "I warned you." She tucked the paper into her purse. Then her expression changed. "Ethan, if this becomes too much, we say it. And if your business needs you, we adjust. And if you get scared, I tell you before I turn fear into a decision for both of us." She nodded. Then she put both arms around me. I held her in the middle of the airport drop-off lane while a security officer shouted that I had to move my truck. Nora pulled back, laughing through tears. "You should go." "I know." You're blocking traffic. I know. You hate blocking traffic. I love you more. The words surprised both of us. She kissed me once, hard and quick. I love you too, she said. Now move the truck before our relationship starts with a citation. Long distance was exactly as difficult as I predicted, and difficult in ways I had not. In October, I flew to Seattle with one carry-on and a tool bag. Nora met me at baggage claim wearing a green coat and the smile I had been missing in real dimensions. For a moment, we simply stood there. Then she walked into my arms. Her apartment was small, bright, and half-furnished. The blue mug sat beside the sink. You brought it, I said. I told you I would. She handed it to me the next morning, filled with coffee. By December, I was spending 10 days a month in Seattle. Marcus hired a site supervisor in Pittsburgh. My father learned to video call and used the skill mostly to show us the rosebush. Nora's program secured funding for 2 additional counselors. She was exhausted, proud, and more alive than I had ever seen her. We still had hard conversations. I wanted more time together. She worried that I was stretching myself too thin. I worried Seattle would always feel like her life and Pittsburgh like mine. She worried I would one day resent the changes I had made. Then, in January, a client in Seattle contacted Hale and Timber about restoring a 1920s craftsman house. One project became 3. Marcus suggested opening a small regional office. This is not a romantic gesture, I told Nora over dinner. Good. It is a business opportunity. Also good. But it would mean I could be here half the month. She set down her fork. Do you want that? Yes. For you. For me. For us. For the company. All 3. She smiled slowly. That is a much better answer than the one you gave me in August. I have had professional development. Should I send Marcus a thank you card? He would frame it. The Seattle office opened the following spring. I did not move into Nora's apartment right away. We had spent years pretending our relationship did not exist. We were not going to make up for lost time by skipping every careful choice. Instead, I rented a studio 6 blocks away. I kept clothes in both cities. We learned which routines belonged to us and which each of us needed alone. On the anniversary of the night her lock failed, Nora invited me to dinner. When I arrived, she was standing in the hallway with the front door open. I have a problem, she said. I looked at the lock. It was new, solid brass, perfectly aligned. What seems to be wrong? She held out a key. I only have one of these. I looked at her face. This door locks fine, I said. I know. So this isn't about security. No. What do you want from me? Her smile trembled. I want you to come home. Behind her, the apartment had changed. My books were on one shelf. A framed photograph of my father's impossible rosebush hung near the window. The blue mug sat on the dining table beside a second cup. I took the key from her. Then I reached into my pocket and handed her one of my own. It opened the studio I no longer wanted to keep. I already gave notice, I said. End of the month. She stared at the key, then at me. You were going to ask me? Tonight. What were you going to say? I stepped across the threshold and closed the door behind me. I was going to say I don't know every version of our future. I can't promise we'll never be scared, or busy, or angry. But I know I want to build a life where neither of us has to stand outside wondering whether we matter. Nora's eyes filled. That sounds almost certain. It's better than certain. What is? A choice I can keep making. She kissed me before I could say anything else. Later, after dinner, I installed a small hook beside the door for our keys. Nora watched from the couch. You know, she said, most people would buy an adhesive hook. Most people lack standards. You put 3 screws in it. It carries emotional weight. She laughed, and the sound filled the apartment that was becoming ours. For years, I believed love was a structure you entered only after every risk had been measured. Nora taught me that love is not the absence of uncertainty. It is the decision to remain honest inside it. The first night she knocked on my door, I thought she needed a lock repaired. What she really wanted was not protection from the world outside. She wanted to know whether I was willing to stop standing safely across the hall. And in the end, the most important door I opened was not hers. It was the one I had kept closed in myself. If this story made you think of someone who once asked for honesty when you offered them caution, share your thoughts in the comments. And remember, sometimes love is not asking someone to stay. It is showing them you are willing to go with them.